So Uncharted came out almost 2 weeks ago. I've now seen it twice and I wanted to talk about it. So when it comes to the Uncharted video game franchise, I really enjoyed them. Uncharted 4 Thief's End is probably my favourite video game of all time. It's the one I have the fondest memories of playing. It's one that literally from start to finish I absolutely loved. And so I went into this movie with expectations of I love the games, but I separated my love for the games with the movie because I had all of the news that came out of this movie where all the casting. I don't like Marky Mark. I didn't think he was good casting. I didn't like Tom Holland's casting. I didn't think that was good casting. The only casting that actually got me excited was Antonio Banderas. Not because of whatever character he was going to play, just because it was Antonio Banderas playing the villain. That's what got me excited. Just the actor, not the character. Nothing about the character itself. It was literally the actor that got me excited. As well, all the trailers, I wasn't really blown away by any of them. None of them I thought were great. So I went into this movie knowing that it was called Uncharted, but expecting it to be just a video game like the Resident Evil movies, where I have never played the Resident Evil games, but I know that the games are nowhere. There's no similarities between the games and the movies. You have the names and all that. That's it. So I was expecting Uncharted to be that, where there's no comparisons to the games. There's no story beats, nothing like that from the games. It was just characters, locations. I was expecting it just to be that, and after watching it, it is that. Of course, they're saying this is a prequel. I don't know if they're saying this is a prequel to the first game or if it probably is, but I cannot see how this version of Sully and this version of Nathan Drake grow into the versions of the video game. Marky Mark as Sully was my biggest negative in terms of actors and in terms of characters in this movie. I never once saw Sully. Never. All I ever saw was Marky Mark doing his Marky Mark stick, and I just saw him being himself in all the other movies he's been in, whether it's the Daddy's Home movies or the Mile 22 or whatever other movie he'd done. I just saw Mark Wahlberg being Mark Wahlberg. I never once saw Sully. Tom Holland was different. I went in I wasn't excited to see Tom Holland. I wasn't expecting Tom Holland to be a great Nathan Drake, and I still don't think he's a great Nathan Drake, but I'll give him credit where credit's due. He gave it his all. You could tell this guy was giving it his all. Not only physically, you see him, he's giving all the stunts. Apparently he did majority of the stunts himself, but he's giving it all there. You can tell that he's giving it his all to be Nathan Drake. Now, as I was kind of going on, again, I never saw him as Nathan Drake, but he had the look. He was a very confident guy, very intelligent character. That comes down to the writing, of course. But I can see where this guy can eventually be a different version of Nathan Drake. I can't see him being the video game version, but I feel like if they continue with this universe, I can see Tom Holland eventually growing into Nathan Drake. And honestly, I do hope we get a sequel. I would like to see the progression of their story, eventually them growing up, meeting Sam, Nathan's brother, and just continuing their story, because I feel like they can do more. One of the biggest negatives and probably my least favourite aspect of this movie was unfortunately the villains. I found the villains to be very forgettable, very dull, they felt like they were just there because you have to have a villain in a big action movie. It didn't feel like there was no personal stakes. I really did not like the villain. I thought they were the weakest part. Every time they showed up on screen, I kind of wanted them to get away and go back to Nate and Sully, and that could be one of the reasons why they're one of the worst villains. But also Nate and Sully, I feel like this is the same complaint I have with Solo, a Star Wars story. I feel like if that wasn't Han Solo, if that wasn't Chewie and Lando, if that was just any random characters in the universe, people would look at that movie better and it'd be more enjoyable. I feel the same way about this. I feel like if that wasn't Nate and Sully, if that was just some random adventure movie with Mark Wahlberg and Tom Holland, I would enjoy it a lot more. I feel like since they weren't able to embody the characters of the comic book video game characters, I would prefer if these were just two completely different characters. I think it would have been a lot better. The action scenes were fine. There was none that were standouts, none that I loved, none that I can imagine putting it in the Blu-ray just to watch the action scenes again. I can't see any of them happening like that, where it's a completely different one. But of course, just saying, Endgame, I can put Endgame in just for the last half an hour. I know it's a big difference, but it is a big, massive action scene. And I just can't see myself ever going back to watch any of these action scenes, just because none of them are great, none of them are memorable. They have some fun action scenes, like the pirate ship one. That was fine. It wasn't great. None of them were great, but you kind of expected more from an Uncharted movie. As a whole, it just was a massive, massive disappointing movie. I was going in not expecting much. I didn't get delivered much, but it's one I would love to see succeed more. I think it's doing well financially. Hopefully with a sequel they're able to do more in the story, make it feel more like Uncharted. But for me, I found it to be really disappointing. As a big, massive Uncharted fan, it just didn't deliver for me in that way. But if you want to hear future content from me, click the subscribe button. And as always, thanks for watching.